the Overman Warrior Podcast.
Hi, it's Rich Hoffman here. Talking about personal costs of doing things like this, and people say to me all the time, why do you do these all the time? And why do you do them at great expense to yourself? Well, that's a good question. And that actually came up recently. I was talking to some agent types about my book, The Politics of Heaven, which is a serious entry. I would say it's a mainstream kind of book. So you talk to kind of mainstream corporate types in the midst of that approach. And so it's a different kind of audience that you're talking to. And they look you up and they're like, wow, you have some really strong opinions. And these are New York people. And we all know how New York votes. So you're a writer in Ohio with really strong Republican views. There's a lot more hill to overcome than other people who write about other topics that are much more corporately accepted, to put it nicely. And I went through this very same issue. A lot of people, and I talk about it a lot, my experiences in 2012 with the Lakota School Board. The Lakota issue was on a third levy attempt, and I did my latte sipping prostitute speech, and it was on WLW and broadcast, and it's well-known territory. I've never forgiven all the people who tried to use that to destroy my life, not just harm me. It wasn't just political. They tried everything they could to destroy my life in every way that you could do. And it was an early form of the kind of personal destruction you saw from lawfare that went against Trump. The kind of Twitter exercises that went on, deplatforming people. I was definitely an early version of the deplatforming movement because I was in the way of Lakota schools passing a school levy. So the aims of personal destruction were vicious. And I saw how corporate media worked. I was a frequent guest on WLW radio in Cincinnati. They wanted to part ways. They were getting a lot of hate mail from that same group of people. And the corporate types listened to those people, and they got rid of all the people who were putting me on. All the guests that were having me on all the time were either got fired or demoted or had their time slots shifted around. It was very vicious. And I was still invited to come on, but the hit pieces were over the top, where it was very difficult to go out and represent a movement. And I was very resentful of the people who, the Lakota schools should have listened. I put my name, which I have a lot of contacts out there in the world, and I deal with a lot of people. And everybody was should have considered themselves very lucky that I put my name on those levy issues. And most people in my position would never even come close to doing that. And let alone speak honestly. And I did. I spoke honestly about the kind of people that were supporting levies, and I said what my opinions were of, and they didn't like it. And I talk about using truth as a weapon, and I used truth as a weapon. I spoke my opinion about them in ways they could not refute. And their feelings were hurt. Their husbands' feelings were hurt. They were hurt that this is a movement. The people that I was partners with, we've remained friends over the years, but they distanced themselves from me really quick. And that was the game plan. And they acted like baby seals. Trained seals did exactly what the radical left wanted them to do. And I was pretty mad about it. And this came back to me because I was sharing old interviews of myself with Zuri Hall, who went on. After interviewing me, she went in and got a gig at Access Hollywood. She's very popular, interviews everybody. I saw her the other day, and she was interviewing Spielberg for the Disclosure film and some of the actors on the Disclosure movie, which is, I'm interested in the Disclosure film a lot. So I saw her doing an interview for Access Hollywood, and it reminded me, wow, remember when you did that interview for your book? And that book, Tail the Dragon, came out in 2012. And I was very mad at the time because I was doing promotional work for the book, and all these people were sending me these letters like, how can you promote your book and stand against this school levy? And of course, the WLW types were like, you're just out here trying to make money. Well, I spent years writing that book, and I had worked I did Hollywood work to build relationships that I knew the book would get out there, and I had media contacts that I'd be able to use to promote the book, including the one with Zuri Hall. And during that year, a lot of things happened, but it was 2012. And I was getting ready. They were getting ready to release the book. The publisher was. All the people involved in it were like, "Okay, you ready to go do some talk radio?" And since I was a frequent guest, the plan was we would shift from talking about school levies at Lakota and talk about the book and the contents of the book and how it tied into the Tail of the Dragon down at the Great Smoky Mountains. And we do segments on that. And so Zuri Hall was one of my interviews. It was a TV interview, and she was really good at doing that kind of stuff for a TV station, a news station at the time. It was a daytime TV thing. And she went straight from that job to Access Hollywood because she's just a good interviewer. So I have a clip of me interviewing with her, which I'll put on this just for people who are curious about it. It's about 10 years old right now. But the plan was I was going to do those kinds of things on Fox News, and I was going to be all over the New York media. But the problem is, I had this association with this school levy issue, and I was anti-teacher, anti-kid, and it cost me a lot. And I still did it. I still rallied and helped them, even when a lot of people ran away from me after the whole WLW thing. And I talked about the latte sipping prostitutes with asses the size of car tires, diamond rings to match. I'm very proud of all that because it was honest and I was truthful when it was very hard to be. And I had a plan, and the people who invested in me on that book project had a plan and they felt I let them down. So it hurt for over a decade after that. Hurt them personally. A lot of people lost a lot of money being affiliated with me, but I still did the right thing. So when people write me and say, you're this and you're that, and you're a sellout and all these things, it's the same stuff I had in 2012 on, and I would sell the book. It came out, and I did my best with it, and it sold modestly. It sold well at the actual event as a tourist thing. It didn't get auctioned off to a movie like a lot of people were thinking it was going to be the next Fast and Furious edition. It'd be Fast and Furious 13 or 12 or whatever, however many they make. But when those movies were very popular at the time, and there was a lot of talk from producers in Hollywood that, hey, get the book published and then send it to me. Instead, it was like, wow, Rich Hoffman's. This is before Trump, so the wokeisms were still new. I stood by it and did my thing anyway, and I dug in and have stayed with it for many years. And even now, I still explain it, and I'm going to do what's right because I always do what's right. But I took a lot of heat at the time. A lot of people would say, they'd send me emails, how can you fight for the school levy and promote a book at the same time? Well, they never stopped asking for money. So it was a perpetual thing, and I got very mad. I wanted all the No Lakota people to find another spokesman. They eventually did after all the media stuff, and I was blasted all over the radio stations and the TV stations and the print media for a long period of time. After all that happened, I stayed with it, and I still helped them with the next levy support. And there were enough rhinos that defected, that were Republicans that went along with the school board, and the levy in 2013 barely passed. And since then, we've all worked together, we've all kissed and made up, and we've stood next to each other for many other levy defeats, and that's the way it is to this day, and they haven't passed another levy since. Another tax increase, which is ridiculous. But when people tell me you're being disingenuous or you're not being sincere, well, the playbook is once you get wrapped up in those things, you're attached to them forever. They never go away. And it cost me a lot to fight those first 2 levies, to go on and put my name on TV all the time like I did, and to put I cashed in a lot of chips, media chips, and I was on WLW 3 or 4 times a week talking about the levy, and it defeated those levies. It gave a platform and people learned how to fight those levies. But you know what? It cost me dearly. And I don't talk about it much, but here lately people have been saying the same thing to me. You're a corporate sellout. You're this, you're that. Hey, I don't see anybody else out there building a platform that does what I do. It doesn't happen. Does it gall me? Yeah, because the personal sacrifices I've made to pull it off and to do the right thing has very little been understood and appreciated by most people. They'll send you kind things every now and then saying, thank goodness you're there to say the right stuff. But the damage, I'm now over a dozen years into this. I'm 16 years into all this. And before, I went to a lot of film festivals and I knew producers personally, and I was talking to people who were wanting to convert some of my writing into screenplays or movies. That went away after that 2012 thing. So I'm sure, and I don't talk about it because I know a lot of those people will be very happy to know that they personally hurt me. But you know something? That I went into 2012 wanting to promote my new book, and I'm kind of in the same situation with this new one. It's definitely one that would appeal to people who don't normally read. They're not the Tea Party types. They're the kinds that buy books at Barnes and Noble that are the centerpiece. When you walk in the door and you look and you see the books that are the top bestsellers for the New York Times. I think this Politics of Heaven is one of those kinds of books. So it's a different kind of teamwork environment you have to build. And I was doing that in 2012, and the whole thing got derailed when I used my street cred to defeat that levy, and everybody got very weak-kneed and pulled away from me. And all these years later, I'm the only one really putting my name on anything, and everybody else is out there chucking criticisms. I don't see them doing the hard stuff when it really counts. And now I'm in another situation where people are like, wow, I love the concept, but boy, you're really controversial. Boy, you are really in with Trump. Boy, you're really one of those MAGA people. You are building the kind of people that we can't stand. Yeah, well, I'm going to stand by it. I'm going to continue to do it because it's the right thing to do. But I can work with them, and I have in the past, and I've kept all my promises, even when it hurt really bad to do it. And 2012, and what brings it to my attention now? Well, they're like, hey, show us some sample interviews. And then I saw the disclosure thing the other day, and I'm like, Zuri Hall, I interviewed with her. Boy, she's really slick. Here she's talking to Steven Spielberg, and she was doing coverage for The Mandalorian, talking to Jon Favreau, and she's doing all top-tier Hollywood talent. She went from me to that, and I'm like, well, this is pretty good. It's a pretty good thing to put on your resume. Yeah, I've interviewed with significant people. Here's an example. Yeah, I can do that, and I can do that for this project too, and I will. And then they start looking at like, wow, you are really conservative. Scares them off. And that's part of the cost of doing these things. So, hey, the book will come out one way or the other. It will do a thing. I'm sure it will come out in a good way. And I've published these things before in many different ways. But when people say, how can you go out and crusade for tax failures and attach yourself to all these political movements and then have links to your book on your blog site? Hey, you got to do the promotion stuff. And these people, the evils of the world never go away. It's never convenient to take a pause like I wanted in 2012. I had promised all these media contacts I had, hey, I'll take a step away. Hopefully the Lakota levy thing goes away. They stop trying to ask for them and I can get a break. And then I can go do some other things for myself, like promote this book, Tail of the Dragon. Nope, I couldn't do it because they kept asking for levies, and I kept having to put it on because no one else would put their name out there because they were afraid for their own professional integrity. They were afraid what it would do to them if they get blacklisted or knocked off Twitter or whatever the YouTube penalties. Anybody can look at all my results on YouTube and see that I've been blacklisted supremely. The Google has me as the algorithm king of don't check. Don't look at this guy. Don't put him at the top of your search engines unless you write me specifically and there's no one else like me. A lot of people ask about the Overman Warrior handle. There is nobody out there with the Overman Warrior handle. So it's unique to me. So if you Google it, that's the only thing that's going to come up. And that's one way to cheat the algorithm. But I have an algorithm hit that's been against me for 15 years. And it's all come out with Trump's 2 terms that he's ran. We've seen over the last 12 years exactly how that game works. In 2012, I was nationally quoted in the public education movement because of the Lakota stuff. But I already had national recognition, and I was cashing that in to do all this press for the Lakota levy to come out against it, and I got blacklisted everywhere. And I was able to go on the interviews and do debates on interviews, and I can win anything. Put me in any arena, I'm going to come out on top. And I did great on all those. And when they couldn't beat you that way, they try to sabotage you with some sort of blacklisting. That's what they did. And the Cincinnati Enquirer helped them do it. And they called in favors. And I saw how it worked. And it was really, really corrupt. And a lot of those people are still play the same game. It's the same game that when they got rid of Darby Bodie on the Lakota School Board. It's the same game they play with everything, and it's not changed at all. And a lot of people who should have stood by me did not. A few people who did when it really counted most. And I'll give you for instance. I think I've talked about this before too, but it was really thick, and there were some really prominent politicians who were definitely on the climb at the time. And we had a meeting at a local Orosis, and we call it the Overman Warriors Club. And those are the people who supported me behind the scenes. And there was about 30 people. And I was curious, after all this media hit stuff went on, who could I really trust and who couldn't I? And some of those people, when they're saying, how can you support those people to this day? How can you support these rhinos? Well, you know what? When it counted most, they were there for me. They stood by me when it was really difficult for them. And I'll never forget it. But very few people did. And I remember them all. And people will be friends with you. They'll align themselves with you when it's convenient for them. I get that all the time. That doesn't take any skin off their back. But as I've looked back and I'm doing this promo work to kind of shop around the politics of heaven, to people who don't know me, who are getting to know me because of that work, as it's moving around the publishing world. And I explain, look, I stand behind issues, and I'm a character who has influence over political events that some of these same people would like to see happen. And when you're an influencer of that kind, they don't like you for all the same reasons that you get blacklisted on Google's search algorithm. Same thing. Same way with Facebook. People say, why don't you have a Facebook account? Because I hate Facebook. And I hate Facebook because during the way they blacklisted people, the way they played their game, I saw it early on. And I was at a Hollywood event with a bunch of up-and-comers who were paid influencers by Facebook, as Facebook was coming out in 2008. And I warned them. I said, when the intelligence agencies are giving you money to put your name on this emerging platform so they can collect data from people, you're not doing a good thing. And back in those days, MySpace was like the thing. And these celebrities were being paid, and some of them were for Beverly Hills 90210, popular Fox show. And I was in a catering tent with them on a project, and they were telling me that they were Facebook, some of the big executives at Facebook were actually there at this thing, and they were paying these guys, these influencers, money to convert from MySpace to Facebook, so people would go to Facebook and follow them, and that's how they built their following. So I would tell them, well, this is what they're doing. They're using you to collect data on gullible people who are following you for the celebrity, and they're like, hey, I don't care. They're paying me a lot of money. It's a good gig. It's easier than acting. They take my brand and they sell it. That's cool. I don't mind being that person. I get paid to do that with all these movie projects I do. And it was big name directors, and it was big time producers. It was a good check they got from Facebook to get people to come over to the platform using their celebrity status to get gullible people to come over and sign up. And I knew that was what was going on because I had the Facebook executives at my table at the catering tent. We were all at the catering truck together, and all these celebrities, A-list people, everybody would know. And we're all sitting at this table talking. And these are people that I was like, they were like, hey, what are you working on? When we get done with this project, what are you doing? Hey, I'm writing a book about the tail of the dragon in Tennessee. Hey, when it comes out, send it my way so I can option it. Because you're a really intense person. We definitely would love to develop it. So that's the kind of talk. And that's why when people were publishing that book back then, they're like, how can you be involved in these political things and blow this deal for us? Well, because I'm trying to do the right thing in my community. And then you turn around 10 years later and have someone say, oh, you're corrupt because you support Israel, or you support the military-industrial complex, or you work too nice with rhino Republicans. That makes you part of the problem. Tucker Carlson tells me I'm not supposed to follow people like you. That makes you a sucker. You have no idea what I've given up to do these things every single day for all these years. And if I never do one of those big projects, I'm fine. I can live with it. I can live with it because I do what's right. I can look in the mirror every day and say I fought for what was right every single day. And I've put my name, I sign my stuff every day with Rich Hoffman. I put my name next to it when a lot of people run away from that kind of responsibility. Most of their lives. I spent a huge part of my life when I had opportunities to make a lot of money. And I mean a boatload of money. I've turned it away for these ethical fights because of the right thing to do. The problem with those fights is once you get started on them, they never go away. You never can say, okay, someone else needs to take the baton and run for it. And when it came to the North Dakota levy, as we went into that third levy in 2012, we came out of 2011, 2012. It was Christmas time. I remember the snow was falling. And I was in the office of one of the organizers. Good friend of mine, very rich person. And we were there and they were like, hey, how many more of these levy fights do you have in you? How long can you do this? And I'm like, really, can we find someone else to do these things? I mean, I've created the media contacts. We created the platform. Can someone else go out and be the spokesperson? We need you to do one more time. They're going to put another levy on. They're probably going to do another one in May of 2012. So I got mad because I got drugged back into it, and I wanted to pound them. You know how I always say, if you want to go for the jugular, tell your wife she's fat, and then call it honesty. Well, sometimes that is the right thing to do. If she's being very disrespectful of your relationship, and she's eating cookies and saying, only look at me, even though I'm not going to do anything to take care of myself. And you get a little mad and you say, hey, honey, put the cookies away. I want to look at you. I don't want to look at a sack of potatoes and filled with cookie dough. Right? So I was very truthful for the kind of people that I was interacting with. I kept pushing these stupid levies forth, and I was very honest about it. And it's funny, and it's probably what I'm best known for. Is that what you want to be best known for? You know what? It's more popular than some of Arnold Schwarzenegger's gag lines from some of his most popular movies. My statements during that period earned me a lot of political street cred, which has been very good, and it's really helped local politics in big ways across the state of Ohio, even to this day. And I think about it because a lot of that stuff, you do work over time, and then you build up chips of influence. Then how do you use those chips of influence? And then you get a big project like this that matters a lot to me. The Politics of Heaven is a project that matters a whole lot to me. And everybody who's read it is saying, hey, this is top tier New York Times bestseller 20 stuff. not just Rich Hoffman's unique writing style, something interesting that fits an extension of the blog we love every day. Now, this is something that is significant and meaningful. And it's the kind of books I tend to like to read. When you walk into Barnes & Noble and you see them right there on the shelf in front of you. That's the kind of book that this Politics of Heaven is. So I'm approaching it a little bit different, but then you may reflect, and the question comes back is, wow, you're really conservative, you're really controversial, we still very interested. So can you send us an interview? What's your most significant interview? And then I'm sitting there in someone's office, and you're like, wow, there's Zuri Hall. And I'm like, Zuri Hall's doing press for The Mandalorian with Jon Favreau and Pedro Pascal. I've interviewed with her. Oh, send us the clip. And I send the clip, and then it reminds me what went on when I was going to that studio that day. I was getting hammered in the media. I was all over the press, everywhere. My tagline for the diamond rings the size of car tires and the asses to match, diamond rings to match, or whatever, tires to match, however I said it. That was floating around. It was all over the media. It was all over all my media outlets that I was gonna use to promote the book, and all those avenues dried up. Doc Thompson, who is my main contact at WLW Radio, and Daryl Parks, he's still out there. He's still an influencer in radio, but what he said at the time, he always told me, he said, Rich, I'm telling you what's coming up. Podcasting is going to be all the thing. And he used to be the program director at Clear Channel. So even with Willie, Bill Cunningham, I was very close with his producer at the time, and she always wanted to have me on. And after that whole event, all that dried up. The corporate media is like, you know what? We're going to cancel culture you, cancel culture you, woke you out of existence, which, of course, the Lakota School Board orchestrated through the Enquirer. I will never forgive it as long as I live. I will hate those people as long as we're all alive on the same earth together. I absolutely despise those people because it wasn't just politics. It was an attempt to destroy me personally, which I will never forgive. You can't take the shot back once you've shot. Just like Trump will never forgive the people who came after him with lawfare. And he shouldn't. The games they played, once you take the shot, you can't take it back. And they took the shot. And I will never forget it. I tend to live bigger than everybody else. So it really didn't hurt me much over time. Did it hurt book sales for that Tail of the Dragon? Yeah, but book sales, $1 million here, $1 million there. Would I? Do I? Have I? Yes. Have I given that kind of money up to have my integrity intact so I can have the authority of writing my name, Rich Hoffman, at the end of all my work, which I do? Yes. I've given up many millions of dollars to be able to do these every day. And I still do them. And someone's going to write me and tell me that I'm part of the corrupt rhino group because I'm friends with all these rhinos. Give me a break. Really? You have no idea. What a bunch of losers. Well, it's just a story I share. I don't think it's going to change anybody's opinions or minds, but just understand, every decade or so, I write one of these things. I do a book or so, and I get into, and I've been in positions where I've been at the top of the pyramid in the entertainment industry, so I know what it feels like. And yes, for ethical reasons, I've walked away from great opportunities, magnificent opportunities most people would kill for. I've walked away from them. And I may be doing that right now for my own ethical behavior. But for someone to send me at the same time I'm going through this and to say, you're one of those Israel lovers. You're part of the military industrial complex. You're all your friends are rhinos and you're part of the problem. You know what? You can suck on it. You have no idea. No idea. Anyway, Rich Hoffman here. Share, subscribe, make tomorrow a better day. If you ever read my book, The Gunfighter's Guide to Business, I think you will love it. That's a book that's done pretty well over time in lots of different ways. Money's just one way to measure it, but it's been very influential. And yeah, I think everybody who reads it will love it. I'm happy to say that every day. Anyway, have a good day. See you later.
In the age of disclosure, you must understand the politics of heaven. Coming soon. Coming soon, the politics of heaven in 2027. A treasure hunt through heaven and all human history.